Hey guys, welcome back to Real Estate Today, where we're going to touch on I don't know, I guess the hottest topics, issues that we're having in the real estate industry today. And you've got three pretty decent real estate minds here. So I've got my brother right here in the blue shirt.
Greg Beggins, how are you?
And our adopted brother, Mr. Mike Puma. And I'm Jeff Beggins. And background for those who may not have seen the show before is we have a large brokerage in Florida. And we have what 600 agents, about $1 billion a year in sales, and we've done about 60,000 transactions. So we got a little bit of background on this one, and we really want to talk about what's happening in the market and the headlines and what's going on, because there's some doubt, some fear, there's anxiety, there's excitement, there is all kinds of the whole spectrum's going on in the industry right now. So we were just chatting a little bit right before we went live here about this, and so we said, no, we're going to hold that story till we're here. But we're in an interesting media time, right? Which has changed over the last few years, where if it leads, it bleeds is the mantra for all media and internet and clickbaits and stories and just selling ads and just getting people to stay tuned and watch who's going to die next type of headlines. And that's kind of where we are. And they're trying to commoditize real estate into a market. And to me, I think that's the biggest thing, and you cannot do that. So Craig, let's talk about that for a second. Let's start with you. What are the problems with the media from the commoditization of the market? And is there a market? And what are we hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, the problem is they talk about the real estate market. Like the United States real estate market is down 45% over last year. Well, my neighborhood's up, but I live in a suburb on the water and there's no supply. So what they really should be saying is real estate markets are based on supply and demand. And every real estate market has a different angle. Now there's neighborhoods across the street from me that are flooded with inventory. They're not selling. We've got some markets that we have houses that are on the market. We have listings we've taken for 6 months that are expiring and not selling. Then we got listings where we put it on the market. We get multiple offers in 2 days and we sell it for 40,000 over asking price. So what market are we talking about? And that's in Tampa, right? And then there's Naples and there's Florida, there's Fort Lauderdale and there's Orlando and there's Jacksonville and all these other big places that have the same thing. You know, if you're on the coast, it's a different story than if you're inland. But Mike, your story was your friend is, you know, land is land, supply and demand. That's what they should be talking about.
I agree.
Yeah. Micro markets, right? I think everyone wants to look at a market on a broad term because it's easier, and in the news case, it's scarier and it's more attention grabbing than if they actually looked at it in a micro market, right? And I think if you look at, you know, where I am in Wesley Chapel and Land O'Lakes, in this area has experienced so much growth over the last 5 to 10 years that values have continued to gone up. And in almost every neighborhood and market here, that's continued to be the case, right? I mean, literally 2 weeks ago, we just had a house in my neighborhood right up the street from me set a record price, highest price ever sold for in this neighborhood. So, you know, you're still seeing that. So if I were to be a buyer and see and create a headline, if I'm the news saying, oh my God, homes in Florida are astronomically high still. Okay, maybe they are right here. But, you know, I just had a good friend of mine who lives in New Tampa, which is a hot market, and he's about to put his home on the market. And by doing so, he's buying new construction, and he's decided to buy that new construction in Plant City, which is about 40 minutes north, right? And why? Because Plant City, he could get a new construction, he could sell his home in New Tampa and buy that house cash, have zero mortgage on that new house, and that same exact house from the same builder being done in Land O'Lakes area, which is up here, is $200,000 more. Right. And so why is the same exact product $200,000 more? Well, there's more demand here right now than there is in Plant City, is potentially one of the factors. The other factor, though, is supply, right? So it's not that Plant City is undesirable. It's that also what's going on in Plant City is that was an area where there was a ton of land. So Wesley Chapel ran out of land, right? New Tampa ran out of land, South Tampa out of land, Apollo Beach out of land, right? Like there's nowhere really to build anymore. So what happened? All the new builders flocked to where the land was, which was Plant City. So what's happening in Plant City is what happened to Wesley Chapel 10 to 12 years ago, where all of a sudden all this land was there, everyone flocked there. Well, what happens though, is now you have all the new builders with a ton of product all available in one market. So what
Yeah,
they
watch
have to
this
do,
too.
they got to compete, right? Because there's way more supply. Even though demand is still strong, there's a lot of supply. So he has a lot of options in Plant City. And those options mean that now he gets to negotiate and he's going to get more favorable terms as a buyer, because if they don't want to give it to him, the builder up the street will. And so whenever that happens, and I don't care if it's in Plant City or if it's in Oklahoma, supply and demand of what's going on that particular day, that particular street matters, and it affects values negatively or positively. And it's 100% supply and demand, but we can't speak in generalities because the supply there and demand there is very different than the supply and demand in my neighborhood, for example.
Let me get my silver ball and I'm going to tell you something, because you weren't here back then, but when Tampa Palms was built, it took off like rock stars. Oh my God, it was crazy. And the main road through there was Bruce B. Downs, and it was a 2-lane road. And the traffic on Bruce B. Downs became horrible. Right. But right now, I was in Bruce B. Downs last week, and it's like 8 lanes on either side now, and it flows and there's no traffic anymore. So what's going to happen in Plant City now?
Same thing.
Same thing. Right. We're going through the metamorphosis here in Apollo Beach now. They're tearing up all of our highways and our roads. We're redoing our interstate access ramps, and it's going to be another 2 years of that. And the traffic here is horrible.
Yep.
But it's going to be like New Tampa soon, because we're going to expand it to 8 lanes, which it should have been, a long time ago.
Yep.
So that's another thing to consider as a buyer in a market. Like Jeff in St. Pete, your roads are your roads. There's no more land. Your peninsula is full.
We're built out. We're completely built out. We have
You got to knock down
Yeah.
an old one and put up a new one. We can still build thousands of homes here, and then we are.
And I was just thinking about the contrast, right? It's of the markets, right? So I'm on the phone last night with a doctor, an investor who's been looking at one of the Pelican Lane homes. We're building, as you're unfamiliar, we're building these 9-bedroom, 8.5 bath waterfront vacation rental machines that are third party projected to bring in about $500,000 a year in income, which is pretty sick to think about that. The houses are under $4 million and they're bringing in $500,000 worth of revenue, and it's awesome. So he and I were talking about it because he just sold his huge practice, and he is looking for a home for a lot of money. And so his financial advisor doesn't live here, right? And he says, don't do real estate. Real estate market's going down. Be very careful, right? So we were having a very important conversation about this last night. I said, well, which market's he talking about, right? And so it went into the same thing that we're talking about. And he is in a whole different mindset than the buyer who's trying to chase the new construction home, right? That's trying to squeeze into the grant program with the FHA loan limits like everybody else on the planet to get to where they need to go. So the micro markets are the keys here. So what we were talking about is it doesn't matter what the market's doing, that we are in a vacation market where there's going to always be vacations. And my pitch is, if they're going to be on vacations, people are more likely to want to conserve, right? And stretch their dollars on vacation. And it makes sense to put 2 or 3 families together in a luxury home, or 4 families together, which is cheaper than going to get 8 hotel rooms. So we're going to do better if it does get tighter. And even if it doesn't get tighter, people aren't going to care. They're going to be extravagant and want to rent the house out. So we're going to be extremely insulated because of the rental market that we're in, right? And so that's what we're talking about. Where else can you put down this money and get this type of a return? Because if you find a better place to put your money, please tell me where, because I'll follow you, right? That's the conversations that we're having. So totally different micro markets. And that's what we want you guys to understand, is if you're living in Connecticut and Oakberry Lane Groves, right, the neighborhood, the only market that matters to you is what is your direct competition. If you've got a 5-bedroom, 4-bath home in a great school district, the only thing you care about are other similar 5-bedroom-ish type homes in that school district, because that's what your buyer wants, right? It doesn't matter what's happening in Hoboken, right? It doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant if Idaho is crashing because a window plant closed down and everybody got fired. That there's a problem in that micro market, because now people need to sell their homes and there's 10 houses on the market and the prices go down, right? There's so many different micro market sectors to take into consideration. So I wish we could have a megaphone and say, just call bullshit out on 99% of the news articles that are out there, because they're misleading and they're wrong, right?
Let me simplify this. Call your agent, right?
Well,
Because
not just any agent either, Mike, because there's a lot of agents that don't get this.
You need to make sure you have a good agent, right? And you need to make sure you have an agent who understands the local market that you're in. Okay, it's very, very important because here's the thing.
Not the geographic area, the
No,
market that you're
like
in.
literally that street, that neighborhood, that niche that you're in, right? That street, you need an agent that understands it. And it's super important because the way I look at this is if I were to hurt my elbow tomorrow, right? And I just look on the internet, I'm going to see all sorts of different things. Oh my God, my elbow, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's a broken elbow, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. There's going to be all these different things, but there's a lot of factors there. How did I hurt it? Where's the pain? Where else am I experiencing symptoms? All these other factors, right? But I'm not going to get that from the internet. You know where I'm going to get that? By calling my doctor and saying, hey, I've got elbow pain here. And you know what he's going to do? If it's a general practitioner, he's going to say, hey, Mike, yeah, listen, that could be a lot of different things I've seen over the years. You need to call my buddy John. He's my elbow specialist. He's going to go through with you. And then that elbow specialist is going to look and he's going to truly evaluate it. Where does it hurt? How did you do it? Where's the pain going to? And he's going to diagnose exactly what the issue is. Instead of me having potentially 500 different things, he's going to narrow that down and finally say, hey, it's this. We need to do this, this, this. Here's your treatment plan. And that'll get you back up and running. It's the exact same thing when you want to sell your home or buy a home in a particular market. If you don't have a specialist, I should say, who knows that market, who's going to be able to calm you down and say, yeah, I know what they're saying about the national headlines. I know what they're saying about Florida. I know what they're saying about Tampa. I know what they're saying about that. But let's look at Oak Street. What's going on there? Let me tell you what's going on there. That is what you need. And if you don't have that or somebody who can do that for you, you need to find a new agent.
Good
You're
point.
right on. And then here's the problem. Most agents will say, I can handle it. Right? Here's my scalpel. Figure it out. I went to doctor school. Well, wait. No, you might have, but you didn't go to the specialty school that I really want you to be in. Right. And that's a tough thing to get into your mind. And I know it's your best friend's wife who just got their agenting license, right? And you want to help them out, but you could massively screw yourself if you don't have a specialist in the market.
But that's what's funny, dude, is this is the only world that happens in, because if I called my doctor friend and he's like, well, my nephew's niece is in her first year of med school, she probably knows what's going on with your elbow, right?
And
he would never do that. He would
never
do that. He would never be like, I know somebody who 10 years ago was kind of in med school and then they dropped out, but they had 2 years. They'll probably be fine. They would never do that ever. Right. And we would never allow that. If that happened, I would never call that doctor again, ever in the history of the world. Right.
I might regret saying this, but I don't know if the public realizes the requirements to get a real estate license. Seriously, you have to have a high school diploma. You have to take a course for 63 hours. And you have to take a test at the end of the course. And you have to take a state exam. And after 2 years, you got to go back and do another 45 hours. And then every 2 years after that, another 14 hours. To get a license to be a cosmetologist to cut hair is 1,300 hours of education. So it's a $245 course and a 63-hour class. You can do it online from your house. And you're a real estate licensee.
Yep.
And you're entrusted to go sell. Right? The biggest challenge a real estate licensee has is to pick the right brokerage company that can support them. Right? Because I can take a new agent and mentor them and guide them and have them, I can be the elbow surgeon. They can take my advice as a good broker and help you. And if they have a problem, they come to me. But the problem is too, once you're an agent, you don't even need a transaction closed. You wait 2 years and you take a 72-hour course and now you're a broker. So you got all these new brokers running around with all these new agents. Nobody's got any experience and nobody's talking about the real things like this, about how you need to know your market. Like I'm doing a class tomorrow morning on the new condominium law changes. Big stuff. That collapsed condo in Sunrise, Florida, changed the laws in Florida. Huge. And we are changing our agents, and the condos are going to become much more restrictive because a lot of the associations don't know what's going on yet.
Right.
And do you think you'd want me to tell you that if you were a buyer? Well, my agent's going to know about it because they listen to me and they're going to educate you. Right. But if you met it with a new brokerage and a new agent that works for a new brokerage, Happy Feet Realty, they probably don't know about these condo law changes. So you might end up buying and getting damaged. So I guess we didn't mean to turn this into a real estate agent talk.
It's a false sense of hope.
Relevant. I mean, I would love, I talk to people all the time, like, you know, you should get a place up in the mountains, right? Be a nice little VRBO, vacation rental cash flow. Great. Do you know how big the mountains are? You know what mountains there are? And what state do you want to go into? I don't know. There's great places in Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina and all types of places. I'm sure there's probably 250,000 places that would be cool, right? Realistically, how in the world would I ever possibly find somebody that would be able to guide me in that type of a market? I can't just call an agent. I want somebody who would specialize in a cool sunset mountain view with a waterfall on an area that's licensed for VRBOs that's kind of close to stuff, right? And then you'd start drilling down from there. You see the point? And then I'd have to find out who is that person. How would you find that person? Like, how do you find somebody that knows your micro market? What do you think?
Well, I'll be real popular with this one too. If I'm moving to an area like Tampa, what is Tampa? It's Wesley Chapel. It's
Demographic market area.
It's Plant City, it's Safety Harbor, it's Indian Rocks Beach, it's Madeira Beach, it's Tampa, it's Apollo Beach, it's Riverview, it's Ruskin, it's all these places. And this won't be popular either. You probably need an agent. If you're deciding between Ruskin and Riverview, you probably, any agent will take a buyer and show them Ruskin and Riverview. But I guarantee you most of the agents don't have much product knowledge on both markets. They'll fumble around.
I cringe every day because in these Facebook community groups, you'll see it. Someone will post moving to Tampa Bay, looking for an agent. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yep.
And 217 comments later, it's like little ants coming out of an ant pile that smell the sugar, and they're all coming, right? And you'll see it. I love going through the comments because you'll see it. Hey, I live in Ruskin, but I can help you no matter where you're looking. Hey, I live in St. Pete, but I know Wesley Chapel. I sold a house there 10 years ago. Guys, it's not in your best interest. I don't care who it is. It could be your best friend. Now, what happens most of the time, if we're honest, is one of two things. Either you're going to search it out, right? You're going to do a Google search. Okay, sure. I read Amazon reviews too. That's certainly important. One way to do it. A lot of them are going to say, they're going to go and ask somebody who moved there 10 years ago and say, hey, who did you use? And they're going to get a referral. Okay, another great option. But if you don't do your due diligence, which we know, what is it? 78% of people hire the first agent they talk to.
Yep.
That scares the crap out of me. And that's someone who, listen, we have 600 agents. I want you to hire our agents. And if you hire them on the spot, great. But the reality is I hope that you vetted and compared our agent to others, right? And if you're not going through an interview process, you have to understand the decision that you're making. When you are an employer hiring an employee, do you hire the very first person that walks in the door? No, typically you're going to interview multiple people to figure out who's my best candidate, right? And it's the same exact thing, but now we're dealing with the largest financial purchase that you're likely going to make in your life. Yeah, you're just making off the cuff decisions because they're the first person you talk to. And honestly, you're probably overwhelmed. You have a lot going on. You're moving. Maybe it's a new job. All this stuff is going on. You got kids. You got all the schools. It's overwhelming. So what do? You just want it over with. You want somebody who can take something off your plate and you just pick the first thing first person you find. But I would encourage you, this is a big choice. This is a big piece of whatever's happening in your life that you need to dedicate some time to. We make it easy. Reach out to any of our agents. They have questions already done that they can send you that you should be asking. Ask them, ask everyone you talk to. Talk to 3, talk to 4, talk to 5. And at the end of that, I will be willing to bet that our agent probably would still win that 9 times out of 10. But if not, at least you made the best educated decision for yourself. But this has to be an educated decision. And if you're just picking the first person that you talk to because John and Sally bought a home with them 20 years ago, I'm telling you, you're leaving yourself open and very vulnerable to having a bad experience.
Well, let's talk about some of the pitfalls that can happen if the wrong agent is there. Right?
Sure.
I talked to my insurance agent yesterday. She said, it looks like the law is going to change, not the laws, the insurance company is going to change their policies. And if the house does not have a roof, that's old. If a house's roof is older than 10 years old, they're not going to insure it. So is your agent aware of this? Number one. What if the house you're looking at is a 9-year-old roof? That's totally leak free and going to last for another 15 years. Then the insurance company, you buy the house and the insurance company says, oh, we're going to cancel you. Why? Because your roof is over 10 years old, but it's not leaking. Sorry, we're going to cancel you. And we have an insurance crisis in Florida right now. So now, did you plan on putting a $12,000 roof on their house next year that you just bought? That's not leaking. Same thing with water heaters.
Good point, good point.
Same
Now,
thing with.
That's not a blanket statement that all insurance companies will require that, right? But that's
No, it's a blanket statement that what the insurance agent lady said is they're going to be forced to go to the citizens pool, which is an insurer of last resort, which is very expensive. And
Right.
supply and demand, right? If there's less supply of insurance brokers or carriers to insure properties, what happens to prices? They go up. Carriers shrink in the marketplace, prices go up. Everybody, my insurance, home insurance just doubled. Went from $5,000 to $10,000 a year. That's a big jump. That's $400 a month.
Yep.
What's that going to do for a normal homeowner?
And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that's just because it's a waterfront house. What people aren't realizing it is proximity to the water now, that you're in a neighborhood.
No, that's flood insurance. I'm talking about hazard insurance.
You're
Flood
talking
insurance.
about hazard. Flood.
That's my hazard insurance.
Mhm.
Flood, same problem coming up now.
Flood is worse.
Just because you thought you were smart because you bought 4 streets from the water by the park that had a little pond next to it, right? It's a pond, right? It's a body of water. It's gonna get nailed with flood insurance. So is the one that's not on the pond. That's right down the street. It's right in proximity to the water, not direct water.
If this street's going to flood, the houses on both sides are going to flood.
That's right.
The water doesn't stop in the middle and say, oh, you're the waterfront. I'm going to flood your side, not this side.
That's right.
Well, and a lot of out-of-state buyers have never had to deal with HOAs and CDDs, right?
That's right.
Which are everywhere in Florida. They're not everywhere else, though. Doesn't always happen in every neighborhood, right? So, and especially the way HOAs and CDDs work here are different than they work in a lot of places. So does your agent know about that? Does your agent know that that HOA in that particular neighborhood is under litigation with a builder or with a litigation to get seawall replaced or litigation for whatever? Do they know that, right? And they're not, if they're not in tune with what's going on in your local market and your local neighborhoods that you are looking. Now, can they discover that? Sure, if they're doing their due diligence and they're doing a good job for you, absolutely. But if you have an agent that's just like, yeah, let me meet you at 123 Street, open the door, I'll show you where the kitchen is, here's the bedroom. I'm sure you guys can figure that stuff out on your own. You probably don't need the agent to do that. If that's where the agent's building value with you, you need to look at a new agent. That is red flag number 1, because to me, that is not the value at all.
That's right.
So just be careful.
And condos, it's a huge condo market too. And little things are huge things that most people don't pay attention to. But if I were to sell Mike and Courtney a beach condo and an older one, whatever it is, forget about the insurance restrictions. But let's say that I didn't get them a copy of the last 6 months of meeting minutes, right? And I just didn't do it. By the way, a lot of people don't, right? Let's say I didn't, and they went under contract, they get excited, they're ready to go. And 4 months ago, there was a notice that little Johnny had a birthday party by the pool, and one of his friends slipped and fell and broke their ankle, and they hired an attorney, and we should get a lawsuit soon. And it was mentioned in passing at that minute meeting, right? Is that a problem?
Could be. Even if it's not a problem, the legal fees are going to be stunning.
And their pending litigation will have it be a non-warrantable condo, and you're not going to get conventional financing because of pending litigation on the property.
Yeah.
Right. So little things like that, you need to have somebody help you.
Especially if you're a cash buyer. Cash buyers need to be more concerned because at
There's
least the
another
bank's
good
looking out for you.
I had clients looking for a townhome. They wanted very specific communities. One of the communities we go into, talking with the agent, I started asking a bunch of questions, and in those conversations, the agent mentions, yeah, and the great news is we just got a settlement on a lawsuit that was pending. It's closed now. And HOA received their money back. So the HOA is actually going down. He was selling this as a positive. And I said, oh, that's great. What was the litigation for? Oh, well, the builder needs to redo roofs not on this side though. Don't worry, it's not going to affect you guys at all. It's on the other side of the street and down a ways. And I said, So had a conversation with my client, said, hey, just so you know, this litigation was just done. It's closed out. It's not going to affect your house, but do you want to live in a construction zone for the next 3 years? Because those 200 units over there all are getting new roofs starting in 2 months. So you're going to move in, you're going to be super happy. And then the last thing I want is you to be woken up at 6 a.m. with hammering nails and everything going on. And you're going to think of me as an asshole who just sold you a condo or a townhome that you don't want, right? And so that's just something that has to be done. But if you're not asking the right questions, right now, maybe they say, yeah, it's worth it. It'll be short term. They'll live with it, right? But in their case, I said, no, absolutely not. I knew they were retiring down out of the city of Manhattan to get away from all the noise and banging and everything else. I knew that, right? So again, it's all just about asking the right questions and making sure that your needs as the buyer in that scenario are getting taken care of. And if you don't have someone who has your back, who's looking out for those little things, who's just trying to sell you something so they can get a commission, you gotta look elsewhere.
Right.
I had a question this morning, real quick. Just an agent sent me a question, and I've got this statement: when in doubt, disclose. So I get a question from an agent this morning, say, hey, I got this new listing. The seller's never lived in it. But I did some research and I found out it was destroyed by fire and then rebuilt. Do I need to disclose that? And I said, when in doubt, disclose. Why? It's been rebuilt. I said, why not? If it's important, you don't know what's important to people. Somebody might have a fire allergy, a smoke allergy or something like that, and they find out afterwards that you knew it was a fire torn down house and you didn't disclose it. Now you get a lawsuit, or the seller gets a lawsuit.
Yep.
No. When in doubt, disclose. So, that would be cleared up.
Yep.
And is your agent knowing that? Are they calling their broker and getting advice? Or are they just going to sweep that under the rug and say, that's fine?
I think the point here is there's a major difference in every field, in every profession, right? There's always really good ones.
There's a good mechanic. There's a bad mechanic.
There's a good mechanic that specializes on electric vehicle harness components, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be good to fix your 1985 Jeep, right? Differences in every industry across the board, right? So there's a difference in a specialist. So our point for you is there is no market, right? There's no car market. There's no automotive market. The automobile market is down. What? Look at
I've been waiting for a truck for a year and a half.
Right.
I can't get one because they're not available.
So there's so many different micro markets and supply and demand and niches and price points and everything around. So don't believe any blanket statements. Get right back to micro markets. Find the specialist in your micro market that can represent you the best way that you can be represented. Hold your hand, guide you, and walk you through and make sure that you're doing the right decision. Pretty good summary on that one.
Yep. Great summary.
That's what we wanted for you guys. So hopefully you got some good lessons. We see it and we bring it to you. That's what you're always going to get from our Real Estate Today podcast. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.
So